A truck driver sees a pregnant young woman with feral hogs approaching. Comment saying what you thought of this story, giving a score from 0 to 10, and comment from which city you are watching me. I really want to know if you liked my story, and I want to get to know you better. So subscribe to my channel to support my work. I count on your help. I never believed in gut feelings. 32 years rolling down the American highways taught me that what matters is what you see, not what you feel. But on that August night, when I spotted that hunched figure on the side of Route 90 in West Texas, something inside my chest tightened in a way I knew all too well. It was the same feeling from years ago when I was there myself, hoping someone would stop, and no one stopped. I drove right past. I accelerated until I felt the Kenworth engine roar louder. I looked in the rearview mirror. I saw the silhouette getting smaller in the dust my truck kicked up. And then I heard it. Not with my ears. I heard it inside my head, like an echo asking if I did not stop, who would? I stepped on the brakes so hard the cargo groaned behind me. The truck squealed as it backed up on the cracked asphalt. It was 8 at night, and the heat still stuck to the skin like hot glue. That kind of West Texas desert heat that does not ask for permission, that enters through the pores and steals your air. I turned on the high beams, and that was when I saw it clearly. A woman, huge belly, bare feet covered in dried blood, looking back with wide eyes. And behind her, coming out of the dry brush, shadows moving. Feral hogs, a whole sounder, 6, maybe 7 animals, agitated, snorting loudly, looking for food or water that the drought had stolen. I did not think. I maneuvered the truck toward the shoulder, honked the horn with everything I had, flashed the headlights 3 times. The beasts scattered into the brush. She fell to her knees. I jumped out of the cab with a water bottle and an old towel I used to clean the dashboard. I approached slowly, hands visible, like someone approaching a wounded animal. I asked if she was hurt. She lifted her face. Brown eyes, sunken, tired. A young face, but with that kind of exhaustion that ages you on the inside. She said weakly and hoarsely that she needed to get out of there. I offered the water. She drank it all at once, the water running down the corner of her mouth, wetting her worn-out shirt that clung to her belly. I noticed the bruises on her wrists, purple marks, some already turning yellow. She pulled a long sleeve down to cover them, in that kind of heat. I asked where she was going. She said anywhere, she just needed to get there before dawn, breathing deeply with her hand on her belly. I did not ask anything else. I helped her climb into the cab. Emily. That was the only name she gave me in the first 3 hours of the trip. I am John, truck driver, 54 years old. Alone for so long that I forgot what it is like to share the silence with someone. She slept, leaning against the window, her breathing heavy, her belly rising and falling. I drove in silence, eyes on the road, but my mind far away. Who was that woman? Who was she running from? And why, even without knowing anything, I felt I had done the right thing by going back? The dawn broke slowly. I stopped at a gas station near Alpine to refuel. Emily woke up startled, like someone who does not remember where they are. I told her to stay calm, that she was safe. She looked around, suspicious. She got out to use the restroom. When she returned, she had washed her face, tied her hair in a ponytail. She looked like a different person, but her eyes were the same. She told me she had an appointment today, right there in Alpine, at the community clinic. I asked if it was a prenatal appointment. She said it was scheduled a long time ago. I took her there. I waited outside, sitting on the curb, drinking reheated coffee from a small thermos. 2 hours later, she came out. She had been crying, you could tell, but she forced a smile. She thanked me for everything and said I could leave her right there. I asked if she was sure. She said yes. I nodded, but I did not leave. I stayed there, parked 2 streets down, drinking the rest of the lukewarm coffee, watching. I do not know why. Instinct, maybe, or fear that if I left, she would disappear and I would never know what happened. That was when I saw the black car pull up to the curb. A man got out, light suit, shoes shining in the sun, a smile that was too wide. He grabbed Emily's arm. It was not affection. It was possession. She stiffened, tried to pull her arm away. He squeezed harder. I felt my blood boil. I got out of the truck and walked over there, slowly, firmly. I held up the empty water bottle and told her she had forgotten it, as if it was hers. The man looked me up and down, smile still on his face, but his eyes were hard. He told me she did not need anything and thanked me. I told him I was not talking to him. Emily looked at me, 1 second, 2, and then she asked me quietly to please go away. That hurt more than any punch. But I understood. She was scared. Scared of him. Scared of what he could do. The man, who I later learned was named Richard, let out a short laugh. He told me everything was fine there and that I could go mind my own business. Emily got in the car. Richard walked around, got in the driver's side, and before leaving, rolled down the window. He told me she was his responsibility, and if caring for her bothered me so much, I should not worry because he would take care of it. The car left. I stood there in the middle of the street, holding that empty bottle, feeling the helplessness rise in my throat like bile. I went back to the truck, sat down, took a deep breath, and that was when I saw it on the passenger seat, a folded piece of paper. I opened it. It was a note, hurried, shaky handwriting telling me to meet her at Mrs. Martha's ranch on the old dirt road to Midland, begging me to go. I started the truck. My hands were shaking. I found Mrs. Martha's ranch late in the afternoon, after driving down 3 dirt roads that looked more like open scars in the dry land. The gate was half open, creaking with the hot wind that blew red dust over everything. The house was simple, whitewashed walls, a clay tile roof, an old oak tree in the yard giving shade to a wooden bench worn by time. Mrs. Martha appeared on the porch before I even turned off the engine. 70 years old, white hair tied in a bun, an apron stained with flour. She looked at me the way only country folks know how, seeing through the skin, straight to the bone. She asked if I was John. I said yes. She told me Emily was inside waiting. I went in. The living room smelled of old coffee and Castile soap. Emily was sitting on a straight-backed chair, hands on her belly, eyes fixed on the wall. When she saw me, she stood up. She did not say anything. She just collapsed on my shoulder and cried. A silent cry from someone who has cried so much that there is no strength left to even make a sound. Mrs. Martha left us alone. I sat with Emily at the kitchen table. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She told me he found her because she booked that appointment, that he had access to the system. She did not know how, but he always knew where she went. I asked who he was. Emily took a deep breath. She said his name was Richard, the leader of the community where she lived, a sort of closed religious group out in the country near Talingua. She explained that he preached that suffering is the path to purification, that pain is a proof of faith. Her voice trembled. She said that when she found out she was pregnant, he told her the baby was a gift, that it belonged to the community, and that she would raise the child there under his rules. She tried to leave 3 times, but they always found her. I asked about her documents. She said he took everything, her ID, social security card, birth certificate, saying it was so she would not do anything stupid. She told me that without documents, she did not exist. She could not open a bank account, look for a job, or even register her son when he was born. I felt my stomach turn. I knew that feeling. Years ago, after an accident that left me out of work for 3 months, I saw my boss disappear with my payroll records and leave me invisible to Social Security. I spent months proving I existed while he walked free, laughing in my face. I told her we would figure something out, not knowing if it was true. Mrs. Martha came back with coffee and warm cornbread. She sat with us. She said that girl needed a safe place and people who were not afraid to face this Richard guy. I asked if she knew him. She said she knew his reputation, that she had heard of his group, that some people thought it was beautiful and said he helped the lost. But she knew how to recognize a wolf in sheep's clothing. We spent the next 3 days organizing. Mike, a mechanic I knew from old roots, helped me change the truck's license plate. Temporary, but necessary. Emily stayed at the ranch, helping Mrs. Martha with the garden, trying to keep her mind busy. But every night she woke up startled, sweating cold, looking at the door as if he would walk in at any moment. On the 4th day, Dave showed up, Mrs. Martha's neighbor, owner of a small grocery store on the highway. A simple man of few words. But when he saw Emily fetching water from the well, his face changed. He went back home. Half an hour later, Mrs. Martha called me, worried. She told me Dave saw the girl, and that he was the type who spends all day on his phone in local community groups. I asked what the problem was. She said there was a photo of Emily circulating, posted by Richard, saying she was missing, needed help, and was in psychological danger. The ground opened up beneath my feet. I went to Dave's house. I knocked on the door. He opened it, suspicious. I told him I needed to ask him a favor. He asked what kind of favor. I told him to forget what he saw today, that the girl at the ranch was not missing. She was running away, and there is a difference. Dave crossed his arms. He said it was none of his business, but he would not go around spreading it either, saying everyone has their own problems. I went back to the ranch with no certainty at all. Emily saw it on my face. She asked if he was going to tell. I said I did not know, but we could not stay there anymore. The drought was cruel. Mrs. Martha's cistern was already dangerously low. The artesian well had dried up in January. Emily, pregnant and under constant pressure, needed to drink water all the time. Every trip to the store was a risk. I started going out at dawn, paying in cash, avoiding cameras. It was on one of these trips that I ran into Tom, another truck driver from my days on the road. He was fueling up when he saw me. He greeted me, saying it had been a long time. We talked briefly. He mentioned, almost by accident, that he had seen a man in a suit asking about a truck with my old license plate 2 days ago at a truck stop 60 miles away. The net was closing. I ran back. Emily was sitting on the porch, pale, holding her belly. She told me she was having contractions. I asked how that could be if it was not time yet. She said she knew, but it hurt. Mrs. Martha called Sarah, a nurse friend of Mike's, who came to the ranch off the books. She examined Emily right there in the kitchen, with steady hands and the calm demeanor of someone who has seen it all. She said they were stress contractions, that her body was at its limit, she needed to rest, and she needed to stop being afraid. Sarah finished the exam and helped Emily get dressed. And that was when she found it. A tiny folded piece of paper hidden inside Emily's bra. She asked what it was. Emily's eyes widened. She said she had forgotten about it, that she took it from Richard's coat one night, and did not even know why she kept it. Sarah unfolded it, read it, and turned white. She called me over to look at it. It was a handwritten note. Dates, amounts, names. I recognized one of them because Sarah said it out loud in disbelief. Leonard, the county commissioner, who approved some strange donations for Richard's group last year. Something everyone talked about, but nobody could prove. I looked at Emily and asked if she knew what was on that paper. She swore she did not, that she only took it because she thought it might be important. Sarah folded the paper back up slowly. She said it was dynamite, that if it fell into the right hands, it would become a lawsuit. But if it fell into the wrong hands, well, she did not need to finish. We knew. Richard was not just the dangerous man. He was protected. We needed time. Time for Emily to stabilize. Time for that paper to reach the right hands. Time to breathe without looking over our shoulders every second. And to buy time, I needed to make Richard look the wrong way. I called Bill, an old truck driver who owed me a favor since I helped him out of a jam in New Mexico. I explained the plan. He agreed without hesitation. He told me to leave it to him, that he would take my truck to Oklahoma, and if anyone was tracking it, they would follow him. We swapped vehicles. Bill took the Kenworth. I borrowed an old Ford from Mike. Emily, Sarah, and I left at dawn, heading to Odessa. Mrs. Martha stayed at the ranch, firm as always, saying that if anyone came asking, she knew nothing. The road to Odessa seemed longer than it was. Emily was quiet in the back seat, hand on her belly, staring blankly out the window. Sarah was driving. I kept checking the rearview mirror every 5 minutes. Sarah told me to relax, that no one was following us. I told her she did not know this man. She asked if I did. I said I knew his type. We arrived in Odessa mid-morning. Sarah had a contact with a lawyer, Jessica, who handled complicated cases. We went straight to her office in an old commercial building downtown. Jessica welcomed us with coffee and the face of someone who already knew she was going to hear a heavy story. Emily told her everything, every detail, the community, the rules, the control, the pregnancy, the escape. When she showed her the paper, Jessica stayed silent for a long time. She read it again, sighed. She said she knew Leonard, that everyone did, that he was untouchable in the region and had big people protecting him. I told her that paper was proof. She agreed, but said proof alone is not enough when the system is rigged, that she needed to verify the right channels, because filing it in the wrong place would be worse than doing nothing. I asked how much time she needed. She said 72 hours, 3 days. To confirm she had a safe path. 3 days felt like 3 months. We stayed in a simple motel, far from downtown in a quiet neighborhood. Emily could barely eat. The heat was suffocating. She spent the day lying down, trying to rest, but every night she woke up drenched in sweat, trembling. I slept 3 hours a night, listening to my phone, waiting for a call that did not come. On the second day, Rachel, the motel receptionist, noticed we were tense. She was a woman in her 40s, observant eyes, looking like someone who had been through hard times and recognized when someone else was too. She asked if we were in trouble. I said no, everything was fine. She did not insist, but that night she knocked on our door. She said there was a room in the back that did not face the street, and if we wanted to switch, she could arrange it. I asked why. She said she saw a black car drive by 3 times that day, slowly, just looking. We changed rooms immediately. Emily cried from exhaustion, from fear, from everything. Sarah stayed with her. I went downstairs, sat in the lobby, and pretended to read a newspaper. But what I was really doing was keeping watch. On the 3rd day, Jessica called. She said she found someone, a district attorney named Laura, who investigated a similar irregularity 2 years ago and had no ties to Leonard. She said she would pass the document to her through Mike, who was going to the state capitol. I asked how long until she acted. She said it depended, but she was fast. And she was fierce. Mike took the paper that same afternoon. He traveled straight to Austin. We waited, hours, days, not knowing if it had worked or if we had just signed Emily's death sentence. And that was when everything fell apart. Richard found out. I do not know how. Maybe Dave talked, maybe someone saw Mike's car, maybe he just knew too much. But he found out, and he used his contacts. A warrant was issued, not against him, against Emily, accused of stealing documents and belongings. Jessica, the lawyer, called, her voice tense. She told me the situation had gotten complicated. The warrant was active, and as long as it existed, Emily was legally vulnerable, so she could not do anything yet. I asked what she meant she could not do anything. She said her hands were tied. The system was being used against her, and until Laura made her move on the other side, we had to hold on. I hung up the phone. I sat on the bed. Emily looked at me, her eyes full of tears. She asked if he had won. I said no, not yet. But inside, I was shattered. We had done everything right, protected her, found proof, found trustworthy people. And still, the system was being used as a weapon against a pregnant woman. against a woman who just wanted to be free. That night, I locked the bathroom door and cried. I cried out of anger. I cried out of helplessness. I cried remembering myself years ago, begging someone to believe my word while the system crushed me. When I came out, Emily was sitting on the bed waiting for me. She told me she remembered something about the paper. I asked what. She said there was a date, that she had not paid attention to it before, but it was there, and it was 2 days from now. Sarah took out a copy of the photo of the paper she had taken before giving it to Mike. She checked it. She said Emily was right. There was a date and a time, and it looked like a scheduled wire transfer. Jessica confirmed it the next day. The date corresponded to a financial transaction between Leonard's account and an account linked to Richard's community. An irregularity that, if it fell into Laura's hands before it happened, would be living proof. Mike delivered the information personally. Laura acted fast. She called in the FBI. Early the next morning, Richard was arrested. We got the news over the phone. Emily collapsed on the floor, sobbing, hand on her belly. Sarah hugged her. I could just breathe. For the first time in days, take a deep breath. But the peace lasted 3 hours. Richard got out. Provisional release. Bail posted. He walked down the precinct hallway smiling, adjusting his shirt collar as if it was all just a boring afternoon's inconvenience. And then he sent a message, through a follower, straight to Emily, saying he knew where she was. She read the message and turned off her phone, threw it away, sat on the motel floor and stayed there, staring at the wall in silence. I did not know what to say. I had no words left. We had fought. We had run. We had risked everything, and he was free, smiling as if nothing had happened. But Richard had made a mistake. A mistake he did not realize right then, smiling in the precinct hallway, believing his money and connections were enough armor. He had underestimated Laura. The district attorney did not stop. His arrest was just the beginning. While he celebrated his provisional release, she was already building a bigger case, a federal lawsuit that went beyond local jurisdiction, out of reach for Leonard and the others, protecting Richard. And the message he sent to Emily, tracked by the FBI, was the final straw. A direct threat to a witness in an ongoing investigation. He had signed his own ruin and did not even know it. Jessica called the next day, her voice firm. She said the warrant against Emily was suspended, that officially she was no longer a wanted person. And there was more. Laura got a protection order, and if he came near her, he would be arrested on the spot with no bail this time. Emily listened quietly. She did not cry. She did not smile. She just nodded slowly, like someone who still cannot believe the nightmare might be over. Jessica arranged the documents. A new ID, a new social security number. Everything registered at the county clerk's office. Everything clean. Emily existed again, on paper, in the law, in the world. But existing on paper did not erase the scars. She still woke up in the middle of the night, sweating cold. She still looked at the door with fear. She still trembled when she heard a car noise on the street. I told her we needed to leave Odessa. She asked where to. I said to the countryside, far away, a place where no one would look. Mrs. Martha welcomed us back with open arms. The ranch was exactly the same, the old oak tree, the worn bench, the smell of coffee and Castile soap. But now it was different. Now it was a real refuge. No fear of a knock on the door, no looking back at every sound. Emily spent the first few days in silence. She helped in the garden, watered the plants, sat under the oak tree and stayed there, hand on her belly, talking softly to the baby. Mrs. Martha cooked, cared for her, never asked for anything in return. She just offered her presence. And sometimes, presence is everything. I stayed too. I do not really know why. Maybe because for the first time in years, I had no desire to get in the truck and disappear on the road. Maybe because there, on that forgotten piece of land, I had found something I did not even know I was looking for. A month later, Sarah came to visit. She brought news. She said Richard was gone. I asked what she meant by gone. She said nobody knew where he was. The community had shut down. The followers had scattered. Leonard had been removed from office and was facing charges. And Richard just disappeared. She said some people claimed he fled to Mexico. Others said he was dead, but nobody knew for sure. Emily listened to all of it in silence. Then she got up, went to the porch, and looked out at the dry desert, waiting for the rain that was still weeks away. She said quietly that she did not care where he was. She just wanted him to never come back, and he never did. The months passed slowly. The land remained dry, cracked, waiting. Emily gained weight. Her belly grew. The baby started kicking hard. She smiled when she felt it. A small smile, but a real one. I helped out wherever I could. I fixed the leaky roof, mended the fence, dug a new well with Mike's help. The road was still out there, calling. But I was in no rush. For the first time in my life, I was in no rush at all. On an October afternoon, the rain finally arrived. Heavy, loud, soaking everything. Emily ran out to the porch, opened her arms, let the water fall on her face. She laughed. A loud, free laugh from someone who had not laughed in a long time. Mrs. Martha looked at me and said quietly that she was going to be fine. I said I knew. She asked about me. I looked at the wet road, at the land coming back to life, at the gray sky that had finally opened up. I said I would be fine too. 2 weeks later, Emily went into labor. Sarah came, brought a midwife, and right there, in Mrs. Martha's simple house, under the roof I had fixed, a boy was born. Small, strong, crying loudly. Emily held him in her arms, looked at me with her eyes full of tears. She said she was going to name him William. I said it was a beautiful name. She said it was her grandfather's name, the only man who treated her with respect her entire life. I held the boy for a moment. He stopped crying, opened his eyes, and looked at me with that strange seriousness that babies have. And I felt something settle inside my chest. An old debt finally paid, not with suffering, but with presence. I stayed for another month. I helped Emily with the baby, taught her how to change a diaper, how to calm his crying, how to sleep with one eye open just like a truck driver does. Mrs. Martha took care of both of them as if they were her own. And William grew, gained weight, nursed well. When it was finally time for me to leave, Emily hugged me tight. She thanked me for everything. I told her I only did what I had to do. She said no, that I did more, much more. I got into the Kenworth that Bill had brought back. I started the engine. I looked in the rearview mirror. Emily was on the porch, holding William, waving. Mrs. Martha was next to her, smiling. I drove down the road. The land was green again. The rain had returned. Everything was slowly being reborn in its own time. And for the first time in 32 years, driving across America, I did not feel that